So, 18th Amendment, 19th Amendment, okay, women's suffrage, and prohibition of alcohol, okay? So, who is going to be the first president that women helped elect? Harding, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about today, okay? Warren G. Harding, okay? He is from the state of Ohio. He started his own business, a newspaper in Ohio, back when we used to have those. And it prospered, okay? I imagine some of your parents are like me. I really miss the newspaper. There's really, it's nice getting up on a Saturday or Sunday morning and going out and getting the paper and just reading the news. Sports section, lifestyle section, national news, local news. They used to have a lot of good, interesting stuff in there. Like if you were a baseball fan, they'd have all the box scores in there, the statistics and stuff like that. That's where a lot of kids learned how to read. I was reading newspapers at home. Okay. But unfortunately, they've gone to the wayside. But his grew and prospered, and then he got into politics. He served in the state legislature, became a lieutenant governor, and later went on to become governor of the great state of Ohio. Okay. Now we're talking about presidents and states. Okay. Which state of the 50 has produced the most presidents? Zero. Okay. Virginia's a great guess. I mean, because you look at the first few, you got several Virginians. Washington. Adams is from Massachusetts. Jefferson and Madison, both from Virginia. But the correct answer is what?
Well, I can't get. Never mind then. North Carolina.
Ohio. Come on, guys. Why'd I bring it up? Ohio has produced the most presidents. Okay? Serious. How many presidents are from Ohio? 7. That's where my dad's from. Ohio. Okay? Now, super qualified to be president, Warren G. Harding? Not really. Okay? But if you're a governor, you have some good experience. Okay? So if you look at people like George W. Bush, who was the governor of Texas, some states the governor has a lot of authority, some states they don't. Like the governor of Texas doesn't have as much authority as the governor of Kansas does. Okay? Or New York for that instance. Right? So, but you know what Harding had going for him? Look at him over here. Okay, you got a picture of Harding. He's back there in the corner. Okay, he's got those dark eyebrows but gray hair. Okay, this is what he's got going for him. Okay, didn't have a lot of experience, but he was friendly. He was likable. He was silver-haired, dignified. He looked like a president. And who's voting now? Oh, yeah, women. Mr. Ebright, are you saying that women would only vote for a candidate based on their looks? Is that what I'm saying, Emma? No, I'm saying that about men and women. And how do I know this? Remember in government when we talked about the Kennedy-Nixon debates, first ever televised debates? Okay? People that listened to the debate on the radio said Nixon won the debate. People that watched it on TV and got to see that handsome young John F. Kennedy, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, okay, said he wasn't fit. Looks have something to do with it. Okay, believe it or not, we can be shallow human beings. What I say is important is that you listen to what comes out of their mouths, not how it looks coming out of them. Okay, Harding was a big baseball fan, okay? And he didn't start this tradition, but he continued. Actually, President William McKinley started this tradition. When the President of the United States throws out the first pitch of the baseball season, okay? Now you can see he's in the stands throwing out the pitch, okay? In more recent years, presidents have gone out onto the mound and thrown out the first pitch, okay? I had the honor this summer of throwing out the first pitch at a wind surge game. They celebrated our state championship in baseball, okay? Yeah, you were there. Were you there? Yeah. That was kind of nerve-wracking. Okay. Now I'm a baseball coach, and I throw the baseball a lot. I throw batting practice almost every day. So I can hit a target 37 feet. That's, you bring it up close, because I'm not throwing from 60 feet, 6 inches batting practice. Okay. I'm old. People don't do that. So about 37 and a half feet. Okay. Put the L screen up so if they hit it back at you, you don't get hurt. You know what I mean? So I stand behind the screen. And so I go out to throw the first pitch at the wind surge. And I go up to the top of the mound. I'm like, I'm going to throw it hard. Yeah, I bounced it. It was embarrassing. Caught on film. But it wasn't as bad as some of our presidents. Okay. Now, so what would happen here is all the players would gather around from both teams. It's the President of the United States, guys. Okay. Now, the first game of the year, Washington, D.C. is like near Maryland and so forth, right? Did Washington, D.C., did they have a team in D.C. right now? The Washington what? What? That's
sorry.
football. National. Washington Nationals. Okay, but the Nationals only been in Washington for a while. They about 20 years. They used to have a team that left called the Washington. So this is at a Washington what game? Anybody know baseball history? Hey, listen. I don't care whether you like it or not. Baseball is part of American history. What do they call it? America's what? Pastime. Okay. Now, I'll grant you, the NFL is the most viewed sport on television. Okay, I'll grant you that. And obviously, football, soccer is the most popular sport in the world. Okay. But baseball is our pastime. Okay. And so we're going to talk about some baseball history in this class. Some of it is very relevant, some of it is not as relevant, but all of it's interesting. Now, so all the players from both sides, the Washington Senators game. So every year the Washington Senators would start the season at home. You know how many games Major League Baseball plays a year? 162 games. The NFL plays 17. Okay, 162 games. The NBA, 81. Okay, it's a long season. So Washington Senators and whoever's playing, coming to play in Washington, they all gather around. The president throws out the ball. You ever been to a wedding where the bride throws the flower bouquet? It's like that. It's a mad dash to catch a piece of history that they can give to their kids and say, I caught the first pitch from President Harding. It's like crazy. Okay. If you ever see the women that want to get married next, they go for the bouquet, right? Because if you catch the bouquet, you're the next one to get married. Only single women go to the thing, right? You guys do this at weddings? Okay. All right. So, now, some of our presidents, McKinley was the first to do this. Some of our presidents actually played baseball. Okay. You might have heard of George Herbert Walker Bush. who was a left-handed pitcher and first baseman at Yale. He was a Division I baseball player. Okay. His son, George W. Bush, wasn't a baseball player, but he grew up playing baseball. He didn't play at Yale. He was a cheerleader at Yale. Okay. He was a Yale leader. Yeah. At Yale, George W. Bush. But he loved baseball. He grew up with it. His dad was a player and stuff. Okay. So some of these guys know how to throw. Some of them don't. Should we watch some of these?
Yes.
I think I have a video. Yeah.
Does Joe Biden pitch?
Okay.
Does he throw the first pitch?
So here's the thing. Oh, what do you mean video unavailable? Come on.
He did say
Wait, wait.
Well, when you stand on it, it looks so much closer than it actually is. So you look like you can make it to the plate.
All right. I'm not going to be able to show you that one. I'm going to show you some, but sorry. They had one where you could see like Harding throw it out and Roosevelt throw it out and so forth. I might be able to find these. This link showed a bunch of that. But I'm going to show you now. Trump did in his 4 years didn't throw out a first pitch. Obama did. Obama was the last president to do it. Biden hadn't done it. Okay, which really pissed me off about Trump, that he didn't go out and throw out the first pitch. Because I've seen him play catch. He knows how to throw a baseball. Okay, I'm like, dude, maybe he didn't want to get booed or something. I don't know, because sometimes they get booed. Okay, so I'm going to show you. We'll show you H.W. Bush, the lefty. Okay, and then the son, and then I'll show you Obama. I'm going to find a Bill Clinton. All right, let's do. We'll do Bill Clinton first. Who's also, we have some lefties here. Okay.
I think Dr. Fauci threw the first pitch a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And then he double masked. Yeah, Clinton's a lefty.
Member financial advice is what we see today. Retirement, the first house, and more.
Come on.
Discover inverted budget services.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the ceremonial opening day first pitch.
Okay, now listen. When the senators left Washington, presidents would go to the nearest ballpark, which is Baltimore, where the Orioles play. So when Clinton was in office, the Washington Nationals did not exist.
With those honors, we are honored for this presidential opener to have here in Baltimore, the President of the United States, Bill Clinton.
It's a mix. He got on his leg. Oh my gosh. Embarrassing. What's that? Ooh. Really? I gotta watch an ad every time? This is after he was president. Nice. Now, Jimmy Carter's still alive. He's our oldest living president in history. Okay, he's not doing very well. but he is alive. Google it.
99. Oh my God.
Okay.
I never
There's
knew
a
that
sister.
one.
All right, Obama. Another lefty. No,
The 44th president of the United States, Barack Obama, will be throwing out the ceremonial first pitch. Escorting him to the line is national honor Sam Lerner and the commissioner of Major League Baseball, Bud Selig. Tapping the pitch will be third baseman.
now he's got that going for him. Sucks that. Obama did not grow up playing baseball.
Oh, gosh.
Hey, at least he had the guts to go out and do it,
At
right?
least he didn't bounce it without paper reports.
All right, now I'm gonna show you my favorite first pitch of all time, which happened after 9/11. Okay.
First game after 9/11.
Yeah. Okay. So, guys, this is a few days after 9/11 took place, and kind of a cool story here. How many guys have heard of a guy named Derek Jeter? Okay, that's Derek Jeter right there. Okay, I'm not a Yankees fan. I'm a Derek Jeter fan. He was on this team, and if you watch the video, there's going to be a rubber right here, down low. It's like, yeah, see it down here? So they put that there for the president so he didn't have to go to the top of the mound. And Jeter saw that rubber out there, and he's like, President Bush, if you throw from that short distance, we're never going to let you hear the end of it. You need to get up on the mound. And so Bush took the challenge and went up there. Okay. Now, guys, he's wearing a bulletproof vest under that jacket. Okay. He's an NYPD, New York firefighter. Guys, it was, obviously a very emotional night. But what Bush was saying and what the country was saying was, we're not going to let these terrorists win. We're not going to stop playing baseball. We're not going to stop living our lives. We're going to go back to the way we do things. Okay. And so this was kind of sentimental of that. Okay. So very powerful, emotional night.
I'll never forget an anniversary when it's easy to.
And this is during the World Series against the Rays.
How much further back is it?
I was probably 6 feet in front of him. So if you listen to Jeter tell that story and Bush tell that story, it's pretty funny. Okay.
Has any president smoked it?
Like
Doing like an amazing,
well, that was pretty good.
Just like
Old guy. Better than my first pitch. Guy.
That's yours.
Huh?
It's yours.
I have it on my phone somewhere. Okay. So Harding is going to get elected. Okay. Now we're not going to do this with every president, but we are going to look at Harding's administration. We're going to look at some of the people in it. And the reason why is because historians generally refer to Harding's administration as the most corrupt in American history. Okay. Now I started teaching this in 1990, so maybe we've had one more corrupt since then. I don't know. Okay, but this is seen as one of the most corrupt in American history. Okay. All right. So we're going to look at some of his wise appointments that turned out well, and then we're going to look at some of his disastrous appointments. Okay. So you might know some of these names. Obviously, you've all heard of Herbert Hoover, okay, because we know he's going to go on to become president. But he started as the Secretary of Commerce under Harding, and there's a good picture of Hoover. Okay. Charles Eben Hughes, in the bottom right, become the Secretary of State. Now, Secretary of States obviously deal with things like diplomacy with other nations. Charles Evans Hughes was qualified for this job. He had helped negotiate the end to the Russo-Japanese War and had other diplomatic accomplishments. Okay, so he's well qualified and does a pretty good job there. Right? And then you have Andrew Mellon with 2 L's. Now, have you any of you heard of Carnegie Mellon Institute? It's a prestigious college, okay, Carnegie Mellon, all right, very expensive Ivy League type college, okay. You've heard of Dale Carnegie. You guys heard of Dale Carnegie? Okay. Have any of you guys ever read his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Dale Carnegie, you heard of that? Okay, guys, it's excellent. Just as far as navigating life, how to win friends and influence people. Okay. Have you guys ever been coached on doing a job interview? Okay, about, if you show genuine interest in somebody you meet and you ask them questions about themselves, people like to talk about themselves. And so if you get somebody to talk about themselves because you ask them about it, when they walk away from that interaction, they're going to be like, I like that person. Because they were interested in me and they let me talk about myself. You follow me? That's how you win friends and influence people without them even realizing. Okay? How many are bad at remembering names? I'm terrible. And I have a bunch of you to remember. Okay? But seriously, like, if you can remember somebody's name, it's like, okay? Now, some of you have very common names. Okay, like, you hear your name, Josh. Okay, how many Joshes are in this school? There's probably quite a few. When I'm walking through a crowd and I hear the name Charlie, I think they're talking to me. Yeah? Dustin? There's quite a few Dustins out there. Yeah. Some of you have common names. Okay. So you're used to hearing your name called. Yes? Some people aren't. Peter. That's my middle name. Okay. Disastrous appointments. Actually, that's my son's middle name.
Wait, it's not you.
No. Good morning. I don't know. Maybe it's my cholesterol. Jackson Peter Ebert, that's my son.
What's your middle name?
Charles Robert Ebert. Named after my uncle Robert. Whew. Okay, so let's look at some of these guys. Okay, you got Albert Fall, who's an old friend of Harding's. Okay, this is what happens when you get elected president. You get to bring your friends with you to Washington, D.C. Your cronies or your posse, your entourage. You with me on that? You make it big, bring up your friends. Okay? And freaking Albert Fall is not qualified for this job. Okay? Now, he's going to be the Secretary of Interior. What does the Secretary of Interior do? Decorate the White House? National parks, national forests, and federal lands. Yes? It can be an important job. It's not a real hard job. You got people that work for you. You just got to delegate. You know what I mean? Make sure everybody's doing their job. I take that job. Harry Daugherty is going to be the Attorney General. If we learn anything about Attorney Generals, they're very powerful. This is the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States. This is the head of the Justice Department. Unqualified. He helped Harding get elected. He was a campaign manager. Hey, man, Harry, appreciate you helping me, man. All right, that was a tough campaign. Glad we pulled it off. How would you like to be my Attorney General? Sure. I'll be your Attorney General. Okay? Now, these people from Ohio that came with Harding, some of them didn't have the best interests of the United States in mind. They had the best interests of themselves. Spent more time playing cards, probably drinking illegally, than planning national policy. Some of them used their offices to enrich themselves. For example, Albert Fall here, who was in control of federal lands. What does the federal government lease federal lands for? Like, people lease the lands to do what? To look for oil, explore for oil leases, or cattle. So you got your big cattle rancher. You need your cattle somewhere to graze. There's a bunch of federal land. You're like, hey, can I lease some of this land for my cattle to graze? You pay the government a fee for that. And then oil companies explore on federal lands, and they have to get a contract, and the government gets a cut. Here's the thing. Albert Fall was giving oil leases to companies and not telling anybody and pocketing the money himself. It's called the Teapot Dome scandal. He got caught. He went to jail. How did that make Harding look? That made Harding look corrupt. Okay? Harry Daugherty wasn't qualified for his job, got caught up in scandal, and tried to kill himself. And failed. How'd that make Harding look? Made him look corrupt. Okay? People around you are corrupt. That's going to rub off on you, yes? Your parents ever tell you be careful who you choose as your friends? Of course. Okay, you're going to be influenced by those around you. So Harding made some mistakes here. Now, is Harding corrupt? Is he a bad guy? Not necessarily. But it sure looks that way. Okay? Which ultimately, guys, will help lead to his death. Harding's going to die while in office. Okay? Do you remember who he chose as his vice president? Calvin Coolidge. Remember, he was the governor of Massachusetts. When the Boston police went on strike, he called in the National Guard, saved the day. Yes? Remember that? Okay. Now, I'm not going to kill off Harding yet. Okay, we'll kill him off a little bit later. All right? We got some more to talk about. Everybody good on these notes? All right. We're going to go across the pond for a minute. What does that mean? The Atlantic. Going across the Atlantic. The pond. British refer to it as pond. Okay. Pond. All right. World War I. As I espoused to you guys, brutal, lasting impact on how people viewed the world. And people don't want war. So guys, after the war, we're going to see a series of pacts, treaties, and so forth to try and prevent another war from taking place. Like, what can we do together to prevent war from happening again? So we'll talk about a couple of these. There are several. We won't talk about them all. This one is important, and it's called the Five Power Treaty. U.S., Great Britain, Italy, U.S., Great Britain, France, Japan, and Italy. Okay. All have powerful navies. The United States has among the strongest navy, if not the strongest navy by this time. The British are notorious for the Royal Navy as being very strong as well. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to disarm. We're going to shrink the size of our navies. If we have small navies, we're going to be less likely to go to war with one another. That's the thinking here. So this is a disarmament treaty, the first of its kind. Or at least what historians might refer to as a successful disarmament treaty. And I'm not even so sure it's successful. But it's a treaty nonetheless. Okay? So we're going to limit the size and number of capital ships or warships. Now, you guys know this maybe? I don't know. The size of ships are determined by how much water they displace. Okay? So if I get in the bathtub, water level's going to rise quite a bit. Okay? If somebody much smaller than I were to get in the bathtub, water would not rise. Displacement. Yes? Okay. So, vessels over 10,000, we're going to limit the size of them, or the number of them. Everybody with me? Now, this is kind of nice. That these countries are getting together and say, you know what? Let's try and prevent another war by shrinking our militaries. Kind of nice. Thoughtful. There's a big ship. Okay? Now, historians, some would say this provided for a decade of peace. Say again? Well, this helped prevent another war. It was proactive. Are you being critical?
Yes.
Good for you. Me too. Now, Japan is an island, yes? And you know how different countries industrialize at different times, okay? And Japan had been industrializing, getting stronger and stronger, okay? Growing powerful. But because they're an island, they have a lack of what? Natural resources, okay? So you got to keep that in mind as we talk about Japan over the next few weeks, okay? All right, here's our piece of paper. Here's our treaty. 5 countries have signed it. Yes? 5 countries, U.S., Great Britain, France, Italy, and Japan, have agreed to limit the size of their navies. Everybody follow me? We all signed it. What happens if somebody violates it? Are the other 4 going to go to war with the one that violates this treaty? Is that in the document? No, that is not in the document. So if one of these nations violates it, what are the repercussions for violating? There are none. It's a freaking piece of paper. There's no way to enforce it. What are we trying to avoid in the first place? War, conflict, yes? So if one of these countries violates it, and they will, What are the consequences? Or not. Now, if you put consequences in, say the four of us are going to attack you if you violate this, what do we have? We don't want war. If you want to put economic sanctions on them, say, okay, you violate this, none of us are going to trade with you. What do you have? You have a conflict. We're trying to avoid conflict. So what good is this freaking treaty? It's not worth the paper it's written on. If there's no backbone to it, it means nothing. It gives you a false sense of security, thinking that we don't have to worry about war because they signed the document. Follow me? So, lesson, don't put your faith in this. Now, you guys are smart. You can probably figure this out. You got 5 countries up here. One of them's going to be the first to violate. I told you that. You got a 1 out of 5 chance. Which one's going to be the first to violate this treaty? How many people said Japan? Okay, you're wrong. Can't raise your hand again. Those that didn't raise your hand, who do you think's the number 2 pick? Who said that? You say France? You got my notes? We're looking at my notes.
I would have said it either way.
Why would France violate this treaty? French don't want war.
Absolutely.
They did get destroyed last time. Did Germany sign this?
No.
No. Germany's Navy's already controlled under the Treaty of Versailles. Their Navy's even smaller than these. Or at least it's supposed to be. Okay? And it is for a time. Who comes to power in Italy in 1922? Benito Mussolini. What do we know about this cat? He's a fascist. Is there anything wrong with fascism in 1922? No. In fact, Mussolini creates the term. He's the guy that coined the phrase or the term fascism. Okay? But as a fascist dictator of Italy, Mussolini starts talking. And he starts talking about building a new Roman Empire. Now, was France once what is today France under the control of the Romans? Yes. Does Italy border France? So if you're the French and you got this nut job thug on your southern border that's talking about building a new Roman Empire, is now the time to shrink the size of your navy? No, the French aren't stupid. So what am I doing right here? I am praising the French. Pay attention, because it won't happen very often. Not a fan. Okay. You guys been to France? Did you meet any nice people? No. They're shaking their head. No, if you didn't see that. Because I didn't meet any nice people either. And Josh, they probably didn't even know you were an American until you opened your mouth. As soon as you open your mouth, oh, he's just another American. Okay. Okay. So, one thing we got to pay attention to. Remember the National Origins Act, the immigration? What did we say about Asians coming into the country? No Asians. Now, is this going to improve our relations with countries like Japan? Probably not. Have you guys ever heard this term of saving face? Okay. The Japanese believe in honor. And when you dishonor them, they don't take kindly to that. Or if you dishonor your family, you dishonor your country, you dishonor your emperor, you don't do that. You do not dishonor your family. Okay? And I venture to say at some point in our lives, we've all dishonored our family. Okay? It's a big part of their culture. So when we say, listen, we don't want your kind here. It's a slap in the face. Okay? So we just kind of, every now and then, we're going to be checking in on our relations with Japan as we move through the 20s and 30s. Okay? You know why, right? Am I out of time? Okay. All right, guys. Today's Thursday. Hey, listen, I am going to throw an assignment on Canvas. You guys need some points. It'll be an optional assignment, okay? And you will turn it in on Canvas, and I will give you several days to do it. If you don't have a book, which you don't, where do you find the answers to these questions? The internet. Okay? Now, I want different answers from different people. I don't want everybody to have the same answers. Okay? Listen, if a question is worth 4 points, don't give me 2 sentences. You give me 2 sentences, you're not getting full credit. And, hey, listen, do me this. When you answer these questions, after you're done answering them, do me a favor. Read over them one time. Read the question and read over what you answered. And then, maybe then, you will have learned something. Okay? Which is the goal of this assignment, to help you learn something that I'm not going to teach, and I might teach some of it, and that you can get some points. Okay? That's the goal of this. Rock on. Mr. Ebright, I was going to say France.